I went to an auction down in New York City, and I bought a vacant lot that I thought I'd know enough about. And come to find out, you could not put, it was all like rocky shale underneath it. So it was virtually unbuildable. And I lost 20,000 on my first deal.
Welcome to the Apartment Investing Journey, where we explore every facet of multifamily investing and development with top investors, brokers, and service providers who share their strategies, successes, and secrets to help you on your apartment investing journey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Apartment Investing Journey. I'm David Robinson. Our guest on the show today is Frank Patalano. Welcome to the show, Frank. Glad to have you on.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, looking forward to diving into your story a little bit, getting to know you better. And I know that you have a lot of experience and a lot to offer to our listeners today. So I'm excited about that. I would like to back up and hear your story. Tell us about your journey from the professional world that you were in and how you made this transition into the real estate business. And then we can talk a little bit more in detail about your business as it sits today.
Sounds good. Like I said, thanks for having me. Starting real estate, I remember being about 6 years old. I was sitting on one of my dad's single-family rental doorsteps, and he was showing the property and everything else. But what's funny is that he never wanted me to get into real estate investing. He was always one of those big get a safe, secure job kind of guys. So I decided that he died when I was 17. So I decided from then I was going to follow what he told me to do. And I went to school to become a full-time school teacher. And I did that for a number of years. But real estate was always in the back of my mind. I love the concept of real estate in so many ways. So what happened is that around, 2005, the last top, my wife and I bought our single-family home. But I also read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure everybody's read just about. If not, it's a must-read. And I bought some vacant land at an auction in New York City, and lost money on that. Did some tax delinquent properties and did not do too well with that either. But went with some buy and hold investing. Bought my first three-family, a triplex in some parts of the country in 2009 or so, and we still own that property. And from there, we bought one or two properties every year. And after 10 years of investing, I was able to leave teaching in June and do full-time real estate investing.
Well, let's, if we can, maybe back up just a little bit and walk me through what life was like as a full-time teacher and investing on the side. Maybe share some insight, because there's a lot of people that are in that situation. Either they would like to start investing, or they're in the middle of it. They have a full-time job. They're a professional, but they know they need to do more than just throw some money into the 401k. Or do some passive investing on the side. They want to be more involved in real estate. Talk to us about what life was like during that time from 2005 until you really exited your teaching profession.
Well, as you and I know, life is about choices, and not only choices with money, but choices of what you do with your time. So you and I could spend every Sunday watching some football games or whatever else is going on, and it is awesome. But if you want to better yourself and better your life, you have to be out there looking at things, networking once in a while, etc. So it was tough a little bit sometimes. You'd go look at two or three properties, you'd make an offer on one. Eventually, you might pick one up, and then you have to fix it up and rent it out. Now, the good news, for me anyway, is that I was able to find some decent contractors and some other people to help along the way. I've never done a toilet. I actually don't even usually lift a hammer. I'm very much a numbers guy, and you try to find something that can make money, and you go from there, and you find people to help you along the way, and you pay them well, and they help take care of you.
When you were going through this process, did you have a family at the time?
My oldest right now is 12. So by the time we bought our first multi, I had a little one, and then I have 8-year-old twins.
Oh, wow.
So thanks. My wife is not as keen on real estate, probably because it takes up so much of my time. But we'll see how it changes the new transition that we have, because now I hope to have more time to spend with the family and at home. As we were growing, at one point when you start managing, 10, 12, 15 units yourself, plus we had partnerships on another 50 or so units, it really did stretch out your time at home. But I knew it was worth it in the long run, and I think she did too, even though she busts on me once in a while.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it sounds like you spent roughly from 2005 to 2015 managing both being a husband, father, full-time teacher. And was that the high school level, college level?
Middle school.
Middle school? Great.
Yeah.
So you're managing all that. Tell us about the transition. Was it always a goal to get out of teaching and move into full-time investing?
So I would say from 2009 to 2019, in January is when I gave up managing all the properties. So for a solid 10 years, I was managing properties myself. And by the way, I had a part-time job as well, just to make you laugh.
Goodness gracious.
Free time. The hardest year was a few years ago when I coached basketball one year too. That was never again.
Wow.
But, yeah, that was a tough year. I didn't get a lot of sleep. Some of my partners, so I have partners on a few of these deals, and they joke that I squeezed 26 hours into a day. But let's see. It was tough. I actually figured what the question was, since we were just talking.
No, you're all right. You mentioned partners. How important were partners and those type of relationships through that time period where you're really grinding, you have a family, you have a teaching job, you have a part-time job, and you're even choosing to coach some basketball here and there. Like, how important were partners during that time in your life?
So I purposely had different LLCs. We have 8 different LLCs right now. So LLCs, I have about 2 LLCs with my wife, and we kept our own properties that we managed as well. But on the partnership side, partnerships are key. I would not be anywhere where I am today without all of the different partnerships that I've been able to do through networking mostly. I go to real estate meetings every single month, just like our local club meetings. We have about 100 members that attend every meeting, and it's just really awesome. You have people that talk about deals, you learn about things, you can ask each other questions. Tons of different ways in which you can learn and educate yourself and find deals. I stood up at a meeting probably 3 years ago and said, I have a little bit of cash. Summer just started, looking to buy something. And somebody else from the group said, hey, I got this $450,000 commercial building. You interested? And I said to him, I'm not really a commercial guy, but when we looked at the numbers, it was so easy to buy. And I had the cash to do it, not all cash, but enough to finance it. And I basically said, could I do it myself? Absolutely, but it's 45 minutes away. So what I did instead is I brought on 2 partners. One's a property manager within 20 minutes, and he's managing the property now. We still own it. And I wouldn't say we made a killing on it. I don't get many distributions or anything, but we're paying down the mortgage, and it's rented well enough to have positive cash flow every month. So no complaints from me.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. From what I know, and I'm not in your part of the country, but a teacher's salary, generally speaking, is not too high. And I know that there's a lot of people that are listening in that may be thinking to themselves, well, I'll do it once I make some more money, or I need to wait until I save up some more cash, or whatever it might be. Can you speak a little bit to how you were able to invest in a lot of real estate over a period of 10 to 15 years and ultimately exit your business living off the cash flow that your properties provide? Talk to us a little bit about what was needed in order for you to accomplish that, living off of a teacher's salary.
So we do pretty well for teachers around here, but I do agree that you have to make a little bit of sacrifice and a little bit of choices with your spending in order to do well in real estate. I believe in that concept that money itself, you need to spend for your fun things last, and you have to invest first. That concept of really taking money out to invest. We didn't take any money out. I think we took money out of the business once in the last 10 years in order to make it grow. just because I could, because I had a full-time job already. I didn't need to use the real estate income. So I kept letting it churn like a growing tornado in there in order to keep growing. The only time we took out $25,000 to buy a used van cash, and we had the surprise of twins. But besides that, I mean, the money just kept growing and growing in there. And sometimes I'd pop a little more money in if I could, just to buy another property here or there. But like I said, I rarely took money out, and it allowed it to continue to grow and allowed me to be more successful.
Maybe if you can share the biggest challenges that you faced during that time as you made a transition from teacher to full-time real estate investor. What were the biggest challenges that you faced in general as you went through that process?
So I'm just starting to feel that now, but the biggest challenge that I'm facing now, I think, is going to be borrowing money from through a standard mortgage, because I'm sure my debt to income ratio is going to shoot up a little bit. And I'm sure a couple of the banks will freak out and probably won't talk to me again. But we haven't missed any payments, so it shouldn't be a problem. And it doesn't matter anyway, because there was one path. And you asked earlier when I thought about leaving teaching, and I had always thought or had that dream, like we all do, of doing full-time real estate. But it was about 5 years ago. Teaching's changed a lot. And I taught history, and we don't even have a book anymore. Everything's all computers and Chromebooks and everything else. And kids have changed, and parents have definitely changed. Society's changed. So I said to myself, well, if I keep saving enough money and keep investing enough, I can make this happen where I don't need this anymore. And what's really nice is that my income from real estate is more than what I made as a teacher's salary. So that's pretty good.
That's great. That's great.
And most of it is passive, especially now, because I'm not managing anything. So almost all of it's passive. Besides me actively looking for deals, everything is, I have 4 different property managers that I work with locally. Plus, we've been buying into some of the bigger apartment deals around the country.
So let's maybe fast forward a little bit, and let's talk about what your business looks like today. What does the day in a life of Frank look like with your business, where you have property managers managing the properties, you have cash flow that is covering your living and lifestyle expenses? What does the day in the life of someone who, in essence, has reached financial independence or financial freedom? What does your business life look like today?
Sounds good. That is something that I am still figuring out as of this moment, only because this is my first summer, and teachers usually have the summer quasi off. So my wife very much expects me to be home. We spent a lot of time, went to the zoo yesterday. We went to the local cliffs and chasm the other day, stuff like that. So a lot of days are filled up with family time. But at the same point, every day I'm making phone calls, looking at new opportunities. I get new deals via email from different people almost every day. And you really have to take time to plan it, because you and I both know that when you're a full-time real estate investor, you could just sit there and watch TV and shows all the time. But if you want to continue to grow and make money, you have to set a bunch of goals. So I have set some goals. I'm reading every day. I'm posting stuff on social media every single day for at least one of our businesses, and networking every single day. I have some of my closest friends, they laugh because I purposely specifically make phone calls every single week just to touch base, see what the new opportunities, see what new and exciting out there. And you do get deals that way, you know. So for example, I had a guy that had a title issue on one of his properties. And a couple of years ago, I picked it up for a sweet deal. Tenant's already in place, no money down. He just wanted to get rid of it. And that one worked out very well.
That's good to hear. So you touched on this, but maybe let's dive a little bit deeper. Right now, a big part of your quote unquote job is sourcing opportunities. What are the main ways that you are finding opportunities in your market or across the country at this point in time?
So the main way in which I am finding opportunities is completely through networking. I am personally not doing any advertising right now. I've thought about it, but I network with wholesalers in order for them to do it. They're more of an expert on it. I'm willing to pay them a few bucks to make it happen. On the bigger deals, I am just networking with syndicators and sponsors. I have phone calls every single week with at least probably about 4 people a week just from outside of my market, just to see what they have for deals going on, et cetera.
So you mentioned wholesalers, and that's generally speaking, that's usually on the residential side or small multifamily side of things. And then the syndicators, you're networking with syndicators, usually on larger multifamily or mobile home parks, self-storage type thing. Are you interested in syndicating yourself and being a sponsor on a syndicator on a syndication, or are you mainly looking to partner with other syndicators?
So that's part of my middle term goal, is to definitely do that. I've been taking a class for about 6 months. There's a guy out of Brooklyn doing it, and he has us go to meetings and online courses and everything else. Besides that, I felt that starting as a limited partner passively on a few deals would allow me to see how it works. And but I also go to some different events up in Boston. About 2 weeks ago, they had an ultimate partnering event, and I went up to that and got to meet a lot of different of the bigger sponsors, which was really cool. I learned a lot, met a lot of people, had 8 deals on my desk within a week afterwards. Probably going to invest in one, because what's nice, as you know, the more things that you get to see, the easier it is to say no on some of those kind of deals and really pick up the best score. Back to the wholesale though, real quick. Are they smaller multis? Yes, but once in a while they'll find something that's really cool. I mean, last year we bought a nice 9-unit through a wholesale. And while it's not big in any way, we got it at a great price in an A-minus neighborhood. And basically it was, we bought it like a C+ or a B- price. So
yeah, and I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into that 9-unit here in a minute. As I'm listening to you, it sounds like you're really property type agnostic. Your main focus is really just finding cash flowing opportunities. Is that your investing strategy?
My investing strategy is mostly do residential, but I have done just about anything. I keep telling myself I don't want to buy in a D neighborhood, but there was an opportunity a couple of years ago where I bought a property, a duplex, for $28,000. Had a title issue. I bought it from an attorney that I know. I put $8,000 down. He let me finance the rest, and I flipped it within a year and a half to the first floor tenants for $65,000. Now I got to be honest with you, I never was on the property, and the DEA might have busted into the second floor. I can't confirm, but like I said, if you can make that kind of money, I do agree with the being agnostic. We own some land that we've thought about developing. We've bought commercial. I'm willing to do just about anything, but it has to be a sweet deal.
That's great. So you're really looking for high margin opportunities, it sounds like.
I'm not a big risk taker necessarily, but if you, like you said the word leverage before, our probably average leverage across the whole portfolio is just under 50%. So we can afford to take a few risks here or there, and sometimes you win some and sometimes you lose some. I lost money on a deal or two, but one of the things I learned outside of school was that failure's okay once in a while, because you and I both know that if you don't take a few risks, you'll never know how far you can get.
Yeah, I love that quote. Great. Well, let's, if it's okay with you, I'd like to transition a little bit and dive into this 9-unit that you picked up. It looks like it was in Rhode Island. You bought it off market for $600K. Maybe let's start there. Let's talk about the sourcing the deal. You mentioned that you bought it from a wholesaler, but walk us through how the relationship was built with the wholesaler, why it was brought to you, and how the initial acquisition process went.
Sure. So this wholesaler does own some properties as well. But what's really nice is that they're always marketing, especially online, and they probably have some signs in different neighborhoods, et cetera. And they pass on a lot of deals, but a lot of the smaller ones, especially in the marginal areas, they won't even bother contacting me about, which is fine. But I've always told them that if there's a bigger deal than they want to do or whatever, I'm always interested. So they basically had sent out a mailer, and this 9-unit came up on the radar, and the numbers, it seemed like the original owners wanted a lot of money for it, but they were able to knock them down a little bit. And it was such a good deal that I was actually nervous, because the sellers, one of them was actually a mortgage broker. And I'm thinking that's a red flag in my book, because why couldn't they sell it through somebody else? And then come to find out her daughter was a real estate agent. It's like all these little red flags, but I guess because she owned it, she felt like she didn't want to get other people involved. Almost like it was she's not doing that well on this property, so she didn't want to show other people what was going on.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we were able to pick it up for under 70 a door, which in our market's pretty good. The average rent was $780 when we bought it, and we immediately raised everybody up to $950, and we did not lose one tenant, which was amazing.
So talk to me about that process. How do you go from 780 to 920 without losing a tenant?
Well, if you're still under market and they know it, it doesn't matter. Okay. There was some griping, not to us, not to our property manager. There was some griping to the old owner. It was funny because she sent an email to my partner on it and said, I'm getting a few complaints, but nobody moved out because the average rent in the area was $1,000. Plus, we had told them that we're going to upgrade the windows. We ended up putting about $20,000 in new windows into the property, and we upgraded the driveway. But besides that, it was pretty good shape, the overall property.
So no other improvements on the property itself other than the windows and the driveway?
Correct. Eventually, I think we did have one of the tenants that we required them to be moved out before we purchased the property. So we turned that unit pretty quickly, though, and I think we rented it to them for $975, the new tenant. So
that's great.
Yeah, and right now, so this is about, like I said, just about a year ago. The new rents, I think we have somebody moving in at $1,000 right now.
Wow, strong. That's a big jump. Good for you.
Well, you know why too, though, is that they were the people that owned it, the sellers, lived about 40 minutes away. So I think they kept the rents low on purpose because they'd never have any complaints or phone calls.
Yeah, just didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Vacancies are tough when you have to show a property 40 minutes away. So,
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't property manage it. That's all I'm going to say.
And you're not self-managing this. Your property management company is managing this for you.
So I am not self-managing anything. I was up until January 1st. That was one of my goals. And no, I have a friend that has his own property management company. I don't have my own property management company.
Gotcha. Great. Okay. Did you have any challenges that you faced in acquiring the 9-unit?
No, actually. So that one, we just lucked out. It ended up being a great deal overall. And it was really awesome was that because of my networking, we actually had 2 different banks competing for our business at that point. Now, what's funny is that 5 years ago, one of those banks told me that they had like a list of 4 different reasons why they would not loan to me. But, my DTI was too high and everything else. But because I've grown and because of my connection to the bank, they took us out to dinner and everything else. But unfortunately, we still didn't use them. We went with the other one. It was a 30-year amortization with a 10-year locked-in rate. It was hard to beat. And
describe for me the class of this property?
So it's a beautiful brick building. I would call it a B- building itself, and the neighborhood is definitely B+ A-. It's about 3 blocks from a different town, and when you're in the other town, that's it's a top school district in the state.
Okay.
So no, it's a beautiful property. It'll never be vacant, which is really nice.
It seems like your focus in your business, and has been for a long time, is this concept of networking. And that's a sort of a holistic word that we like to throw around. Can you give the listeners any practical, specific tips that could help them in their own efforts to network in order to find partners, in order to find money, in order to find opportunities? Do you have any practical, specific tips or strategies that you personally implement that could be helpful to them?
Absolutely. So if you have somebody that's starting out and has never been to a real estate meeting, I would find 2 or 3 local groups and try to go to each one every single month. Okay. You want them to know who you are. Okay. Now, the first time you go, I would not be asking for a mentor. I would not be asking for money. I would just be meeting people and learning about them. Okay. Like you said before, networking, you're not there just to make money off them. You're there to build connections, long-term connections. In my local real estate group, I've been a member for over 10 years. I've borrowed millions of dollars from people in that room. I have 5 different partners in that room. I've bought properties from at least 7 or 8 different people. Okay. It's about helping each other out. Okay. When you have a deal or when they have a deal, it might not be for you, but you can pass it along to somebody else. Not just being a networker, but being a matchmaker in some ways as well. We help each other out all the time where somebody needs a plumber, somebody needs an electrician. You're going to give out that information. You might not always give the top person, the best one that's always super busy that you know and love, but if you give number 2, you're still helping them out a lot.
That's great. Yeah, going in with the right approach of not looking to take or look for immediate opportunities or to do a deal right away or to find an opportunity specifically from those relationships, but truly just trying to understand other people, what their needs are, what value you can bring to the table versus what can you gain from somebody else.
It's all about value. If you don't bring them value, then they're not going to pay attention. They're not going to remember you. But if I have people all the time that ask me in my local market, especially on bigger pockets, can you name 1 or 2 different local agents that work with investors? I'm always giving two of my connections, one that I actually own a property with. I said, make sure you mention my name. I'm not looking for a deal with them right now because they're doing more on the retail sales side. But if you're just starting out, that might be the only deal you get. And I trust these guys that if I really needed something, they'd find something for me.
Okay, great. Well, I'd like to start winding down a little bit here. I've got 3 questions for you that I'd like to get your knee-jerk gut reaction to. You ready?
Yep.
All right. What's the biggest mistake you've made on your real estate investing journey so far?
Oh, wow. So can I give 2?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first biggest mistake I made was the first deal I did. I went to an auction down in New York City. It was on vacant land. It was, I don't even know if the company's still in existence anymore, but they basically had about 300 or 400 people in this big ballroom bidding on properties. And I bought a vacant lot that I thought I'd know enough about. And come to find out, you could not it was all like rocky shale underneath it. So it was virtually unbuildable. And I lost $20,000 on my first deal.
My goodness.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a good education program.
Yeah. I'm curious, what was the intent or what was the goal with that vacant lot? What was your plan?
Well, because it was in a development, I didn't realize it was one of a really old 1960s style development. It was like a condo association. But because it was a development and the way they talked it up, I thought it was easy to just build a house and maybe sell it or even rent it out. And it was about 2.5 hours away from my house, too.
Goodness.
So, yeah, I lost $20,000 on that. And then the second one, this is more recent. This is newer. We bought a commercial building. I had a friend that needed commercial space, and the place had been commercial for about 50 years from the time it was built, but it was zoned residential. And I didn't realize that. I guess I missed that somewhere because, you just get too excited about a deal sometimes. And we got a great price on it, but we ended up not being able to put commercial into it because the grandfathering of the commercial space was gone when the last business moved out. So when we bought it, we did put commercial in there, but eventually when we tried to get the correct approvals in order to do it, that's when it really hit the fan. And the neighbors weren't happy, and they wanted all these special designs and special parking limits and where the trash was going to be and everything else. And zoning really got up on us. And I said, you know what? I said, what can I do with this? So I tried to make lemons out of lemonade, and we turned it into a single family house. Did we lose money on it? Absolutely. But it was still a learning experience. And I'm not necessarily sad that I did it. I'm sad that I lost money, but I'm not disappointed that I did it, the deal.
Sure. And on those two, is there any? What are the biggest learning lessons that you took away from those two mistakes?
So try to educate yourself as much as you can when you start taking some of these risks. So most of my stuff, like I said, is in the small multifamily space. But when you're doing something outside of that, you really need to bring on a partner or someone else. Both of those deals I did on my own. But if I had brought on a partner that had more knowledge or experience in those things, I probably would have never purchased either one.
Gotcha. Great tip. Thank you. All right, next question. What's the biggest win you've had on your real estate investing journey so far?
Let's see. All right, so early on, I bought a single family, and I bought it through, it was a foreclosure, and I bought it for around $25,000 or so. Really great price. We had to put some work into it, but I didn't put big money into it. Probably about another $25,000-30,000, and we were able to sell it for $150,000 cash.
That's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can do that, it's always awesome, right? That doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, why don't you just do that every time?
Yeah, don't we all wish we could, right?
All right, and then last question for you. What's the best advice you have for someone who's just starting their real estate investing journey?
One, educate yourself as much as you can, which is through reading and listen to podcasts and networking. Because the more you network, it's kind of like history. You're not going to know everything about everybody in the whole history of the world, but you do build on each other. So if you're partnering and networking with others, you're using their time, their knowledge, their experiences to help each other out, to your advantage and to their advantage as well. I mean, you might not be able to bring a lot to the table the first couple deals, but over time, that just grows, and it gets to the point that if you're still networking, people will come to you more and use your knowledge and your expertise in order to help them and make money. And it's okay if you're not trying to squeeze everything out of those partners. You're trying to do fair deals where they keep coming back and you guys keep working together and making more money.
Well, Frank, I really appreciate your time sharing your story with us, how you went from being a middle school teacher and slowly investing along the way, working through the challenges of spending a lot of time and energy and effort on the investing side of the business, navigating those relationships with the wife and the family, and also even spending some of your time on other things like coaching, and then eventually building up a large enough portfolio where you were able to exit the teaching business and focus on real estate full time. Really appreciate the insights, your thoughts, and what are the best way for listeners to get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about what you got going on?
Sure. So we have a bunch of different small businesses and websites going on, but the best way to contact me directly would be Frank at RI, like Rhode Island, buy.com. RIBUY.com.
Well, thanks, Frank. I really appreciate your time and your expertise and your knowledge, and I hope to connect with you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Hey, guys, thanks for listening in today. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please hit that subscribe button or leave us a quick review. Also, don't hesitate to reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or at apartmentinvestingjourney.com. See you next week.